Anyways, yeah, those emerging threats and are affecting like every discipline, and this is something that we cannot really solve in our silos. We need to communicate, we need to deal with this and not leave everything to the politicians, which are trying to merge, sometimes randomly, sometimes not, all the information and then do something. So here came this PhD, which is probably like one of the first example of taking one problem and produce and create a problem-centered PhD, which involves people from many and many disciplines. It's me from the medical side, but it's also like I have lawyers, I have colleagues that are philosophers, engineers, mathematicians, and so on. So this is trying to kind of merging all our scientific products and make something out of it. And making it practical is really, really difficult. But sometimes, like, somehow it's happening. At first, I didn't really believe in it. I was okay, we are together, but we will never communicate. But somehow we are trying, especially in those in those big events, to come up with something, with an output, which is truly in this interdisciplinary. This is a super difficult word. However, to make it simpler, they divided us in macro topics, which are called curriculum. And like, as I said before, there are lawyers, there are engineers. Of course, curriculum has very fancy names, like I just remember mine, that is health and ecosystem. And we are kind of doing events together, and we are discussing about problems, trying to give different points of view. And it's working somehow. I took this picture from a paper that Juvenale presented in one of the last journal club, because science is also changing during those years in this period. And the science production is changing too. And there are more and more, you see in the yellow line, the cumulative numbers of articles over, like, across all disciplines, which is growing and growing. And it's really hard to navigate into all of these, and especially summarize and communicate this. And so, like, how can we do? Of course, we need to be more able to communicate, because it's not an easy task. We have to rely on some, let's say, way of summarizing things, but also on presenting them well. First, among us, because among us, I mean the scientific community, because we need to know what each other are doing, also for, like, to solve, in order to tackle the same problem, which in my case is climate change, but it could be everything else. And we need to exchange information, and it really works, because, like, if you just hear others' point of view, you can really switch, according to your knowledge and your background, the way of studying, which is really, really powerful in some cases. And also, we need to be a little more careful and a little more, let's say, expert in communicating this with citizens. Because this is like how we are seeing it, like kind of elite, is like something that is starting. And I really recommend you to go to this site, which is phdcomics.com, which is super nice and is, I put this here, and is making comics out of, like, with the research topic. And sometimes you say, you write in your research that A is correlated with B under some assumption, and then it's translating to the public opinion in very, like, different way. There is a lot of misunderstanding, and it ends up with something that has nothing to do with your research. So give it a look. And yeah, this is sometimes our responsibility, because we need to somehow communicate our research and not leave everything to the internet blogger or whoever. And so, like, here I come up with teaching, because teaching is a really hard task. And also because now, since the scientific evidence is growing, also the scientific jobs are growing, and the PhD number of like the people that own a PhD is growing as well. This is the trend in the US of the PhD, the number of the PhD awarded per year, which is, you see, it's higher and higher. So we are experts, and we need to know how to communicate among experts. Just a quick image for Italy, which is not really reflecting the let's say overall trend. I didn't find anything for Europe, but anyhow, here in Italy, like there were some low things, and the PhD number is decreasing. I hope, like, and I believe that in this 2020 and after that, some new scholarship were awarded also because of this national PhD thing, because it's not only mine, but there are a lot of PhD led at the national level now. But anyhow, okay. And I believe we will, almost all of us will experience teaching, also presenting something to people that don't know what you're doing. And we need to ask ourselves, what's the purpose of teaching? And I can say, based on my previous experience on the university, that it seems a basic question, but it's not always. It has not a straightforward answer. Because, I mean, I don't know, it may, the answer to this question may change, but I believe we can all agree that the purpose of teaching is that the people you are teaching to will learn, will bring home something from what you are saying. And this means in some cases, also in the Italian university, to switch from a teacher-based, teacher-centered approach to a student-centered approach. Not to each student, but the purpose needs to be clear every time you are teaching. Thus, I just deepened a little bit how the learning process is working from a biological point of view, which means that for the process of memory forming, like in order to create memories, the main driver is the neuroplasticity, which is the ability of the brain connection to activate functionally and according to what you are experiencing, which involves a lot of connection, and sometimes they are really specific. I mean, if you remember something, you have to activate those connections that has been activated to form the memory. So it's basically like really specific, and it's not obvious. If something is similar, it activates the same path it has been activated before. I don't know if I'm clear in this, but anyhow. Of course, neuroplasticity is regulated by neurotransmitters and by hormones, and is enhanced by dopamine and acetylcholine, which are credit, I don't know how to say it in English, but by novelty, surprise, motivation, and yeah, those kind of psychological contexts. While cortisol is inhibiting the neuroplasticity, and cortisol is the stress hormone also, which is, let's say, enhanced by stress, judgments, conflicts, and an excess of stress, which is I think all of your experience during university may even decrease neuroplasticity. So just to keep it in mind. The main and shared approach to make a lesson, a lecture effective is to think, pair, share, which is think, so to give people something to think about. And this is mainly like the lecture, I'm not giving a lecture, but the lecture you can, the concept you are explaining. And then they need sometimes to discuss it with peers, and then they have to share it. And this is really important because like an output that comes out from a lecture or any learning experience, it's really important. And like the students really find it useful to have something to look at and say, okay, I made this because I learned that. So based on this, do you think interaction, like physical interaction or whatever, do you think interaction is effective in learning? Do you?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Okay. And well, it is. Like a lot of studies and from like, in some slides I left some tips and some references to articles, which actually like studied pretty carefully how interaction is effective in learning, and is one of the things that counts the most. Yes, of course.
Like what kind of interaction? Any kind or?
They like the. I mean, interaction is seen as you can say something. You need to like you can ask something to me. It's not just that you sit and listen. So basically, yes. Then I don't know. Probably studies categorize the type of interaction, but still, if you can give a feedback or even like an output on what the lecturer is saying, then is effective. I mean, it's not just passive things, but everything that is active is defined as interaction. So your contribution. And how to do this? Well, some tips are creating a comfortable environment that people doesn't need to like they know that they can ask questions, they are stimulated somehow, produce materials. So this is really important to give them some tasks, some specific tasks, and tell them to produce something. And then use tools. And here are some tools. I would like to take this image of, but however. And those are some tools that might be effective. We use in the PhD workshop a lot of Slido, which is a poll, let's say app, and you can make a picture to the QR code, and then you can vote to the question they create. Very similar, Kahoot, Mentimeter is also, you can also create presentation with Mentimeter, and people can also like type something on the screen, and you can directly see on the screen. And those are some things that can in some way also break the barriers, because people usually are not really keen on talking with all the audience that is listening. So with this, it's easier, and you get a lot more of feedbacks. Okay, and then what's the role of the teacher in keeping motivation up? Because motivation is one of the things that is modulating neuroplasticity, and then in turn helping in the memory forming process. Well, we need to try to keep motivation up. And how? Well, practical examples are always useful. I mean, some things that they experience, they can put in practice. And also, if the students are not like elementary students, but are maybe researchers, they need to see how to apply the things you're teaching in their research. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. And then raise topics of relevance. I mean, people are sometimes engaged in debating also on things that they experience every day, let's say. I mean, if you start talking about climate change, this can raise awareness, can raise their attention and somehow catch them. Or I'm really monothematic climate change, I know. I will try to switch to other topics in a while. And then give a reward and not a grade. I mean, in a comfortable environment, even a rank could not be a problem. Sometimes people can experience difficulties in being ranked. I'm the last one, what will happen, blah, blah, blah. But if you just give a reward, and in our case, in the PhD, they gave us like try that course as a reward for the best video, you will see. But anyhow, like give some motivation without make judgment. It's subtle line, but it's feasible and it's fun. And then the time issue. How long do you think the human attention span is? 10 minutes. Actually, it's a pretty debated thing. Most of the studies are using as a proxy of attention span the time the students are taking notes. So they usually stop after 10-15 minutes. I linked that one study that it's not a study, it's an opinion of a scientist that is saying that maybe it's not the best way to test attention and so on and so forth. But anyways, I think that the social media and the contents on the social media now are lasting seconds. It's not minutes, it's seconds. And young people are super into those things and are super used to this stimuli. So if you like, I rarely see young people reading a book for hours. It's not. It's just my opinion, so take it carefully. But still, I don't think this is helping in increasing the attention span. Also, without interaction, which makes it longer. So we have a lot of instruments that we can use. It takes a while to plan them, but once you do for one type of lecture, then you may apply it to different class, to different people, and so on, which are lectures, role-play videos. Even showing videos is like making this surprise effect, which is activating neuroplasticity and so on. So it's something that we can use, then we can switch, and it's helping in keeping the motivation up, making the lessons not like these, but just a little bit smoother. So use them. And then last theoretical thing is visualization. Here I found this website, which is called Presentation Zen, and it's some Japanese, I don't know who, which is studying and has a website in which they explain how to present things. Because also the graphical contents people are exposed to now, it's often high quality graphical content. So we need to keep the pace. This was one slide about rice consumption in Japan. And it compared in the rice consumption in 1972 and in 2017. This is not a super pretty slide, and it would be probably be forgot in 10 minutes. But if you make the contents a little bit more graphical, a little bit smoother, and you use the pictures and the dimension of the characters according to what you are saying, this makes another effect, and it will probably stay in your memory for a little bit longer. And yeah, just go to this website. There are a lot of tips and nice stuff that they are telling us. Also, I believe Emanuela will give us a lecture about this visualization thing, which can be useful also for the IE Congress, whoever is going to present there. And then here was another example, but it has nothing to do with epidemiology, but it was a nice example on how to present a thing, and there are above, you cannot see them now, I hope this will go away, but anyway, there are several painters and artists, and this is like the most represented colors in their paintings over the years. So you basically see like how it changes, and yeah, what is the artist, let's say, stylist line. And this is very nice.
The last one is Matisse.
Yes, yes. And I don't know how to.
And why you do that?
Okay, I will leave it here.
Click outside. Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes. Oh, okay. Nice. This is this is Monet. This is Renoir. Here you have Degas. Anyway, Gauguin was not here. And the roads are the years. So this is like 1895 and this is 1905. So it's the oldest, the newest. And it's their evolution in time, and it's quite nice. But you can see a lot of examples out there on the data visualization. And here it comes this event of January, this MD event we did. So, like, we stayed together for a couple of days, and we had two presentations at the beginning, and which was the IPCC Team 1 leader that went and presented that thing, which was a very powerful presentation. It was super nice. And then after that, we started working together. We had this teamwork, and until the end, that was our teamwork presentation. What was our task was we were divided in groups based on our curriculum, which means that one person for each curriculum should go to one group. So we were all from different backgrounds. And to each of us, it was given a case study that we had to discuss together during those 2 days, and we had to make an output that was a report that has specific guidelines. So it was like 2,000 words, and it need to have chapters A, B, C, D, and so on. And it was evaluated by the professor team. And then we had to make a video. So we had to film something that was explaining our project, and it had to last less than 2 minutes, something like that. And you can imagine what was the mess in between these two tasks. So it was really nice, but we actually had to talk because we had like this thing to write, and we had to do it together. So it was not that one person was writing the first paragraph and the second the other, because we needed to decide together the structure and really to exchange information. And there was like a mathematician that was explaining how the climate model were done, and there was a lawyer that had to deal with the impact on society and so on. And these were some of the example of the task we were they gave us. So basically, like mine was under here, and you don't see it, but was in an intensification of the precipitation in West Africa and Sahel. And so we had to look for climate models in literature and see how it will evolve, and then predict how to deal with the health effect, the effect on agriculture and production of food, and so on and so forth, and then try to propose scientific-based solution. And it was nice, but it was not the only one. It was the next Santa Fe is to create to write a sort of proposal for creating a new research center. So it's also nice because you need to figure out, oh, how can I write like this thing, and how people are creating this science center, like research center. And the other were really similar. One was a small community in Alaska, and they had to kind of interview the people from Alaska and go and start of course, all through internet, but go and study the specific population and then give specific solution. And one was instead like sustainable mobility in the city versus a viability and life cycle of mineral and metal. So they had two things to compare. So they had to make a study and discuss every part of it in a, let's say, interdisciplinary way, to use this term again. So key feature of these were motivation, because we had motivation, because otherwise we wouldn't join this PhD. But however, we had, and also part of the motivation was the reward at the end that was for the best group that was voted. Like the report was voted by the professor, but then we had to make this video, and it was projected in a room like this with all of us. And it's also on YouTube, and I put the link here. I'm not gonna show it because it's really embarrassing, but if you want, it's there. And then, but it was super nice because it was informal, but still really professional. I mean, we had the chance to work in a very relaxed environment, but make something out of it. And it boosted our creativity, our problem solving, and we also had to edit the videos and make it a little nicer. So we were, really, really active in doing this, and it was really nice experience. So this was what concerned our experience about this teamwork. The last thing I'm gonna present you is the Oxford style debate, which is a format of presentation that we were asked to do, but also to attend. And it's a really, really powerful way to communicate because, it all starts with a central statement of a specific topic. Let's say we had green growth versus degrowth, or something that may apply here is this statement: rely on statistical significance is essential to draw research conclusions. Then there is a first public vote that we did with Slido. So basically everyone had to express what if they were in favor or against this statement. And there were the percentage plotted up there. Then two speakers came, and it could be like two of us or whoever. And we had also a super expert that did this. That was really nice. And then in turn, they had a 5 minutes presentation for the team in favor, 5 minutes presentation for the team against, and then 3 minutes for rebuttal time of in favor presentation, 3 minutes of rebuttal time of against, and then we had like 5 minutes of Q&A. So basically people from the public were asking things to one or the other opponents. And and they had the possibility of interacting, because usually it's like a statement that is really debated, and there are strong opinions from one side and from the other. And then there is the final vote. So on Slido, again, we vote again, and we see how the percentage changes. And according to the change of percentage, which doesn't mean in favor or against, but if one percentage, if the percentage of one team increased or not, and the other, of course, will diminish. And who managed to increase their people in favor was the winner, is the winner. So yeah, this is something that really worked well, and it may be tried also here. I mean, I see it as a nice thing, also because like debating one thing is useful for all of us, and also like seeing the other points of view. And I want to conclude with this statement that I'm not able to read because it's French, but still, that the important is not to convince people, but to make them reflect on something. So, referring to the Oxford style debate, this is the point. I mean, it's about to reflect to one problem and hear a different opinion from people. So the important is not who won this, because we don't remember. We just remember like what was the core of the discussion, which is useful for everybody, I guess. And then some take-home messages, but I already told them. So to enhance discussion during lectures, give specific tasks and give some practical way to them to give you a feedback, and then try to improve their skills, reward the not great, and real practical examples that they can take home and put in practice. And this is the end.